My name is Leonard Sultana. I run a website called An Englishman in San Diego, which is about predominantly a convention which shall not be named here, and also a number of UK and international conventions. And as part of that, I get to speak to some pretty bloody interesting people, including some world-class comic talent. Two of which are here, two are on the way. Ladies and gentlemen, can I please welcome on stage Ken Lashley and Liam Sharp, ladies and gentlemen. Come join us, come join us. And up onto the stage, yes. I get the no, you get the nice chairs. I get the, yes, over here.
Taking this home.
So what we're here today to talk about is between the panels. It's about the process of making comics in 2018. And I was going to start with this introduction and allow you to introduce yourselves this way for maybe people who aren't aware of your work. Introduce yourself, but could you also tell us what your current process is in terms of, are you digital, are you ink, what is your process? Because I even read someone the other day who actually does his blue pencil work on his Wacom and then prints that out and inks on top of that. So he goes the other way to what I would usually think of. We'll start with yourself, Liam. What's your process at the moment?
Process is pure old school. Yeah, so hi, I'm Liam Sharp. Getting a little dance over there.
We have ourselves somebody who's going to be joining us, Mr. Geof Darrow, ladies and gentlemen. Hello there, Geof. Welcome to you, sir. Flight 2. Good morning to you, sir.
Nice to meet you.
So,
yeah, currently doing Brave and the Bold for DC, and it's very, very traditional. I have flirted with all the sort of digital approaches, so I've played a little bit with 3D modeling and a lot of Photoshop stuff in the past, but since I've really gone back to pretty much drawing comics full time, I just wanted to do it the old way and brush and ink and just very old school, you know. I do them very big.
What is this? I mean, what sort of, are we talking watercolor? What sort of size are we looking at?
Yeah, there's a few of us do it as big as like Art Adams does them huge, and Frank Cho does them huge, but they're pretty much 18 by 22. I mean, they're massive. They're like bigger than twice up, which for me suits me because I like to have a certain amount of spontaneity in the inking, and I'm going blind because I'm getting old. So it's like, it just gives you more room. Yeah, it's a gestural thing, and I find when it gets really tiny, I lose some energy in it. A lot of people do thumbnails, I don't. I go straight into the page because for me, if you're going to do a thumbnail, you might as well do a giant thumbnail, you know. And also there's something about the laying out of the page that's a lot of fun. That's the kind of real engine of the creative process.
There's also the detail in the granularity when you go that size as well. When you kind of you put some real detail in there.
Yeah.
When it's then presented, it can instead of it being done on a small scale where the granularity is really kind of lost when it's printed. If that makes sense.
I think so. But I do really quite loose pencils, and an awful lot of the work is in the ink, and I just go at it. Kind of, you've got to be fearless and just. I try to start with a blank page at the beginning of the day and a finished page at the end. If I don't finish it, I tend to leave the unfinished pages until right at the end of the book, and then go back to all the finished ones. Just because I feel like the momentum goes. If I get like halfway through a page, if I start. Try and put this in there. It's been a long weekend. If a page goes over to the next day and I'm finishing a page and I start another one, the momentum is different, the flow is different. So there's just something about getting through a page in a day, for me.
Excellent. Ken, what's your current process?
I'm pretty fast. I can do 3 pages a day. But I just do them straight on the board. 11 by 17 is how fast I work. That's the size I work at. I don't do any roughs. I just do a really light red, very, very light, and then just go right to it with ink. I do all the work in ink. It makes editors go crazy because I'll show them a foot, and then an hour later it's a done page. And they're like, how's that happen? I go, don't worry about it, just print it, right? So,
Are you ink or pen?
I'm a bit of both. Like I kind of, if I'll do areas that I want, like say it's a face, I really want an expression, I'll do a little pencil tighter. So, but if it's like a car in the background, a building, I just do it in ink. So I move that way. When I do stuff for Hasbro, I do a lot of work for Hasbro, so I do the X-Men Legends package art. That's more traditional in the sense of like I really do a full pencil than I do an ink because there's approval process that has to go through. Marvel's got to approve it at different stages. When I work for Lucasfilm, they kind of let me do my own thing, which is cool. So I mean, I have like it's each company has its own process that I work through. But when I'm doing comic books, it's pretty much just I lay it out really lightly in red, maybe 15 minutes tops, and then I just ink it. The fastest book I've ever done was 9 days, and that was 22 pages in a cover because that's the schedule at Marvel. But most of the time, I do it also because I do other stuff, so I don't have time to do 6 weeks on a book. I don't have that kind of patience, so I just get going.
I am quite liking how you two are looking at the screens as if to say, okay, which panels has he chosen? What's he gone for here? Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by Mr. Matteo Scalera, everybody. A round of applause, please. Hello there, Matteo. Welcome along. We're going that way. I just talked about. Yeah, we'll talk to Geof. We'll talk to Geof. So yeah, I mean, same question, but for yourself, I'd like to know because I mean, it says on your resume you're an artist, but I turn around and call you a goddamn magician because I mean, the detail and sheer level is insane. What's your scale that you work at? What's the boards that you kind of work to?
Well, I did this comic called Hard Boiled, and when I was drawing that, they were pretty big. Maybe, I don't know, maybe 3 times up, maybe. But then it was taking me too long. Now they're kind of regular size.
That's something I'm going to come back to because I want to talk about how your styles have evolved, and you do put a level of detail into your work, and I'm going to talk about how that whether it's that level of detail that has made that work as good as it, or if it's what's got the attention. But we'll come back to that. Matteo, welcome along. As an introduction, we're talking about
working.
Your process about digital against ink, pen. What is your current process?
Well, for me personally, it's all traditional. Like the digital part.
Looking at a non-digital panel, fantastic.
Oh, we're all traditional people, yeah. And the digital part comes only at the end when I have to scan it and send it, basically. And lately, like I was used to add some contrasts to the pages through Photoshop, and I'm not doing that either now. So I'm just scanning and sending, basically. So my digital side is like 0.
When it comes to the actual putting of pages together, I mean, because you are known, I think all 4 of you, as very much creating very iconic panels, very iconic large images. But which part do you enjoy doing? Do you enjoy layouts? Do you enjoy laying out the page? What's your element?
Personally, my favorite part is the last part, the inking. And
waiting for one of you to turn around and say, my favorite part is the cashing of the check.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, that of course. But the second favorite part is inking, and right now the way I'm working, like the layout phase and the pencil phase are becoming shorter and shorter and take less time. Like my pencils right now are really sketchy because I already know what I want to do in the inking phase, so I just try to go straight to the inking and spend more time. Like if a page took me 5 or 6 hours normally, like it would be like 3 hours for pencils and 3 hours for inks, and now it's like 1 hour and a half on pencils and all the rest for the inks. I'm enjoying myself a lot doing it.
Yourself, I mean, what's your process when it comes to actually creating the page, when it comes to panels? I mean, is that something you enjoy? Is that something you like taking on? Or do you enjoy the big splash pages?
No, the storytelling's a big part of it. I love the storytelling. It's the challenge of telling something clearly is interesting. And I think sometimes you can overthink it, and there's like tried and tested ways to tell a story, and it can be tempting when you set out to try and rethink it all and reinvent the wheel. As you get older, it's like, that's pointless. It's just, it kind of can get in the way of just the story. But then other times you get like a crazy idea of a way to tell it that is pertinent to the story. But still you think, I don't think I've seen this before. And that's rare, but it's exciting when it happens. And then of course, you open a comic the next day and it's like, you totally ripped it off and didn't realize, you just forgot. But no, I love the storytelling process. And you know,
Well, super glued to the pictures of them.
no, they pull you in. Some of these are really old. Because I'm sort of known for detail too, but more like the organic sort of trees, and like trees and rocks particularly seems to be my thing. Oh, you're the tree and rock guy. For me as well, the environment is a big part of the story, you know, and obviously Geof make the environment's like as big a character as anybody on the stage in the story.
Yeah, with yourself. I mean, certainly with the Black Panther, we've seen some incredible storytelling techniques being used in that book. I mean, when it came to was it detailed in the script? I mean, was that something that was off your own back?
Yeah, not really. There wasn't a lot of stuff in the script that was kind of a do your thing. This was it was a book that I was training for my whole life to get my hands on. So when I got a chance to draw Black Panther, it was on. So it was one of those things where you say, well, if you give me this book, there's going to be trouble. And that's just what it was. As far as other stuff goes, I mean, when I work digitally, I do have a Cintiq. I was very gracious. I work for Autodesk, and I do a lot of shows, and I use their programs and travel with it. They were gracious enough to give me a 27-inch HD. It's a pretty beautiful piece of hardware. And I use it for design stuff only. I mean, and I do a lot of touch-ups on my pages. Sometimes I forget something or I get the wrong reference for something. That's when I use my Cintiq to fix hair and all kind of stuff. But most of the time it's just for design work and that kind of stuff. So when I'm designing the X-Men stuff, or when I'm working on Avengers 4, you know, I do a lot of that stuff there. So
We will be coming back to that. We'll be touching on X-Men, Avengers 4 shortly, but not yet.
Worst job in the world.
Yeah, I believe you.
Yeah, but I mean, I mostly work, you know, I work half and half, and I have a sort of a psychological break in my studio. I have half the studio set up for digital, and the other half is art. So when I'm facing this wall, it's all paint. When I turn around the other way, it's all digital, and it's like, you know, I would think it's awesome that guys can have like a computer next to their paint. My brain doesn't work that way. I'll have paint all over my computer, so I have to physically turn around and go the opposite direction. So when you come in my studio, you either sit on that side or you sit on that side, right? So it works for me.
And yourself, Geof, I think also I'm going to sort of like go on to the next question as well at this point as well, because in terms of, we were talking about how fast you were producing pages. How fast does it take to produce the pages that you do?
I don't know.
How many people are familiar with Geof Darrow's work? How many people have hard-boiled?
2 people, there you go.
Yeah. If you've seen, but when you see it go by, you see the level of detail that Geof puts into his work.
Well, I really kind of started in Europe, in France, and they don't produce a lot of material there. I mean, Mobius was kind of the Jack Kirby of France, and then even do maybe 2, maybe 3, what they call albums a year, and that'd be about, I don't know, 100 pages of material, and that was a lot. Most guys do like 1, and that's kind of where I was at. I mean, I've gotten a lot faster, but I can maybe do a page. I'm taking like a couple days now, but it used to take me. I worked on these Matrix movies, and I think you have one of these drawings.
Yeah, they're coming. I'm waiting for them to come around so you can see.
I think I spent a week on that thing trying.
Here we go.
Yeah, well, that's all garbage. Most of it. It's Gamera. He's the friend of all children. It's a pretty bad drawing. But that one's okay.
So I mean, yeah, the Matrix. I mean, I know that the then brothers were attracted by that level of detail, and the fact that you see it from a distance. It almost becomes kind of like this beautiful kind of pattern from a distance. But then you get real close in, and you see this level of intensity. And I mean, how long did something like that take to produce?
Oh, that was pretty fast. It was like 3 hours maybe, because it's just a car and a guy kicking a car.
That is, yeah, it's iconic stuff, isn't it?
That's something else. But I mean, you guys have probably run into this. Because I'm not talking
that thing.
Well, that thing, yeah, that thing. They built that thing, and they took me out of the set, and I couldn't believe they actually built that thing. I mean, they built that whole thing, and that's the first drawing I ever did.
Excuse me.
And when I did that thing, I was living in Normandy, France, and it was the days of fax machines, and I reduced it way down, and I put it in the fax machine, and I faxed it to them, and the Wachowskis, they were laughing because when it was coming out, it was like, tick, 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 tick. It took like, I don't know how long it was, but they were laughing because it's just, not like now, it's just tick, tick, tick. But that was hard because when you draw a machine and you want to make it seem like it was manufactured, so it has to be repetitive. You can't, like, oh, I'm going to make this part different from this part, different from this part, unless you're like in a Mad Max world. But that was something that was actually supposed to be manufactured, so I had to repeat that same complicated thing like 30 times in perspective, and it was like driving me crazy.
Even these three are just like, wow, it's just, yeah.
Well, I thought they were going to fire me after that.
Yeah. I mean, so what's your kind of turnaround? I mean, like you were saying, like pencils and a page a day, did you say? Page and a half a day. For yourself, Ken, I mean, about?
Really depends on the project. Actually,
Yeah.
I mean, I get a lot of it's about 10 to 14 days a book. So you don't have time to think. So it's 2 pages a day. So you got to make your decisions to just go, And I kind of like it that way, to be honest with you, because I'm doing other stuff. So I don't have 6 weeks. I just rather just get it out of the way, And they don't know the difference, to be honest with you.
Fair enough.
They just go, oh, it's cool, it's printed, let's go.
I'm kind of glad we've got to Liam last on this one, because I'm a big fan of Brave and Bold, which you're currently doing, but you're doing the writing on that, you're doing the inks, pencils, and full colour on is it colour you're doing on that? No, it's just up to ink.
Yeah, it's the writing, pencils and inks.
I mean, what's the kind of, how long has it taken to produce Brave and Bold then? Also, can you detach the writing from the art section? Do you
Totally detached the writing from the art. I wrote it as if I was writing it for somebody else, and then when I read the script, I thought, this bastard, you make me draw all this stuff. You have to write it in a way that...
the Indians take the fort, you son of a bitch.
Because if you don't do that, then it'd be too tempting to cut corners and to cheat, and to just do the things that you really like, and that's not how you should do a comic. You have to tell the story, and that means you have to put everything in, whether you want to draw it or not.
Very quickly about I do like asking this question about your studio setup. I mean, you were saying it's very half and half, and also about your kind of work process. I mean, are you a 9 to 5 bunch of guys? Do you come in 9 to 5? Because I know that there are a number of artists that kind of go, okay, if I do make it a 9 to 5 thing, then I can plan out my day, and I also have weekends off.
Yeah, for me it changes a lot.
Ken's looking at me weird.
It changed a lot in the last few years because I wanted to have, my tactic was to have a lot of my stuff on the shelves at first, when I was pretty unknown. So I was used to work like 14 to 16 hours a day, every day, even Saturday and Sundays. And now I'm just working Monday to Friday, 7-9 hours. I would say I'll start at 8 and I finish around 5, 6, something like that, with a lunch break. So everything's pretty cool.
Soundtrack in the studio?
No, I used to listen to a lot of political talk shows and stuff like that. I love, because for me it's like having people around me talking, and I prefer that. It makes me feel, you know, not alone in this world.
I can't remember which panel it was over the weekend. Someone turned around and said they had the sound of Starbucks playing. There's a Spotify playlist where it kind of is just the background, a coffee shop in the background, just so it feels.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. But the other thing that I listen to is some, I don't know, like some TV shows like Friends, when you don't have actually to necessarily to watch it, but you can recognize the voices, so you know who's talking because you know the characters.
Background noise.
Yeah, it's a piece of background noise. Yeah.
Fair enough. Liam, your working day and
Actually, pretty much the same. Start around 8, and I mean, on the Brave and the Bold, there's some pretty intense detail in there. So I've been working really long days, up to sort of 12 hours, but I never go past 7 or 8. I mean, 8 at the latest. There's a point, we were talking about this yesterday, there's a point like, if you just do it when you start out, you kind of work late and you end up finishing at, if I was left alone in the house, I would sort of work later and later and get up later and later, my days would get longer. And you start going to bed at like 6 in the morning, you know, and then you miss the whole of the next day, and you're broken for about 3 days, and you don't actually cover any ground. So I have a hard stop. You know?
When the people I've spoken to about that kind of starting and doing almost like a 9 to 5, as it were, it gives a sense of discipline, as it were, to kind of, this is when the day starts. And it's yeah.
For me, I just found that I cover the ground like that. I just get through it.
But these two, on the other hand, are looking as if to say, what? So yeah, but is it?
Man, if I could work 9 to 5, that would be sick. But it's just so not my life. It's like I stop in spurts, and you know, I get there at 8 o'clock. Man, I take my kids to school, or I pretend to take them to school. My wife does it, but you know, I get up with them. I'm there in spirit. But and then I just work until whatever's done is done, and then I give myself 11 o'clock. But I love the witching hour. The witching hour is my favorite, when everyone's gone to bed and it's quiet. I love that. I mean, I listen to music during the day, but when there's no one in the house, I could work in my studio for 10 hours with no music on, nothing. I just like that peace of quiet.
So it's more a case of working until the job's done, rather than...
Well, it's okay, to be honest, it's like you have a Hasbro gig, you got a Lucasfilm gig, and you have a comic gig, and you got to get it done by Friday, and it's Tuesday. I mean, I would love to work 9 to 5, that'd be awesome, but I'm I like a lot of stuff. I like having lots of stuff to do during the course of a week, so I'll always go, oh, let's do some package art, and then I'll switch gears, and I'm working on G-Force cartoon designs for, so I'm working on that, and then, you know, working a little bit of Star Wars design, so it's good to change gears, but each one expects kind of a full day of work, right? So you kind of have to get 3 hours worth of work, I mean, make 2 hours seem like 6 per client. So it can be a long day, but I like what I do. The only times I've noticed, this is how I really survive. I don't put anything in my schedule that I don't like. And that's the only way, if I don't like it, I'm not gonna I know my body will just say, you don't wanna draw that, so just stop doing it. I was working on Secret 6, and my body was saying, this is not a book for you. And I willed that to be true. Like I just said, eventually I just said, I can't do this book anymore. My body tells you, you gotta just listen.
I was going to come back to that as well, because that sense of how much ownership you have over a project, and indeed how much investment you have in something like that. Geof, I mean, what's your kind of daytime process, or is it a case of just when you wake up, when you go to sleep?
No, I get up. I'm at my board about 5 in the morning, turn on the television, hoping that Donald Trump is either choked to death on a cheeseburger or Melania.
So around that time, he's on the toilet saying something.
Well, I always hope he's head down in the toilet. And then I work until 6:30, and then 'cause I don't, I mean, I started doing it because when my daughter was born, I wanted to be able to spend time with her, and I would stop and take her to school, and then come back and work, and then try to be done by 5:36 so that I could, play with her. And now she's off to school, so I can do what I want. But I work like 7 days a week. I really don't know what to do if I don't Like my wife, I can't go on vacation. We go on vacation in 2 days, and I'm ready to put a bullet in my head. 'Cause I don't know, you know. Because I lived in France, and we go to the beach, and everybody there goes, "Oh, comme c'est bien ici, oh, c'est super," and they're talking about how great it is, and I'd be sitting there. Yeah, I don't know. If some gamma came out of the water and killed a bunch of people, that'd be interesting. But I'm ready to go. I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know how to take a vacation anymore.
Fair enough. We are going to want some questions from you guys as well, so do start thinking of any questions that you want to put to the guys. I'm going to ask one more, and then I'll kind of open it up to you guys. I want to talk about like I say, the ownership of your work, and also how you feel once you've submitted the page. In terms of, I mean, we've seen re-editions of books where artists have gone back, they've changed some details, they've done some bits and pieces that have changed what they feel they need to change. And then you have, say for example, a couple of my favourite artists where they just go, no, that's the board, I've done it, I've scanned it, and it's gone. How much ownership do you have over your work once it's finished?
Well, for me, it's an easy answer because I own the project that I'm working on.
There is that as well, yes. Do you change anything when it gets to trade?
No. Sometimes if we decide that on the dialogues there's something that's not really working, sometimes we change it. But it's, after all, we don't change anything. And yeah, it's. I mean, it's. I don't feel it like a job anymore because we're building up something. So anything I do, we've decided previously, talking through Skype with Rick Remender, the writer of Black Science. So it's basically, I don't know, it was already there, and I'm just putting it into images, you know. So it's and it's I quite like it because I wasn't used to work that way. I was used to, you know, be hired by a company and do whatever I was told to do, and yeah, that's pretty cool.
Do you see an eventual end to Black Science? Or
No, absolutely. It's about to end.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be over with issue number 42, and I'm about to finish issue number 38. So it's 4 more issues.
So you're seeing a kind of the finish line.
Yeah, and it helps. Like it helps. I mean, I'm kind of sad because I mean, I've been working on that book for 5 years now. So it's gonna be more than 1,000 pages. And it's kind of sad, but at the same time, it's you know, it's a closure to a 5 years, you know, experience, and it's good. It's good. It feels good.
Yourself, Liam, when it comes to ownership, and also, what's your take on, like Matteo was talking about, that closure of a certain run? Do you like ongoing books, or do you like kind of like 6-issue kind of arcs?
I do like an arc. I like something to have a beginning, middle, and end, you know, and for it to be able to be like a satisfying thing that you can put on the shelf and be like, done with. But it's really the case. If you're working for hire, it's not your thing.
It's once it's gone, it's
right.
It's off.
But I have to say, like DC particularly with Brave and the Bold, they've been startlingly like this is your thing. We're here to help you tell this story as well as you can.
How much of that did you get on Wonder Woman?
They're really inclusive. So you know, it used to be really different. You'd send the pencils, you wouldn't even see the inks, and there could be a real like a massive shift in the quality from the pencils to the final thing. You'd be like, I don't even recognize this anymore, and people like you'd. Just the colour choices, you know, you'd even send notes occasionally that would never make it through a certain kind of, you know, especially if you designed a character and this guy's white and he's got blue stripes, and then you come back and he's bright orange, and you're like, no, he's from the north in the ice, you know. It's like, why orange? But yeah, for the Brave and the Bold and for Wonder Woman, the process has been really inclusive, and that's right down to with the lettering and the lettering artist. Everyone's had a sort of say at the editorial level. It's quite a shift, and I think they're on the money with that approach because you get to see you get to feedback and do tweaks before the thing goes out, you know.
I mean, I can imagine for yourself, Ken, it's slightly different because at the end of the day, you are doing a lot of work, say, for example, for hire, as it were. It's kind of, there is that kind of, you create a finished piece and it's...
Well, one of the things that I'm doing now, I have 2 IPs in development at Hasbro, so I mean, it's like I have things that I'm doing for myself, but I also, I'm doing a lot of work. I'm doing the new Milestone relaunch with Reggie Hovland. I'm doing Icon and Rocket, and that feels, and I wasn't gonna, I was doing X-Men and Jim Lee called me and we talked, and he was talking about, you know, we're not gonna do this if you're not gonna come. And it was difficult to make that decision because X-Men was the book that I dreamt of doing my whole life, but X-Men wasn't my book because the rotation of artists and we're doing it. It really felt like I was part of it, but not really part of it. And I was doing all the covers, but I didn't feel connected to the book. So after 6 months of talking, I decided to leave. I decided to go to DC, and the same thing. Pick your own team, pick your colorist. You know, what do you want to do? Work with the editor that you really like working with. You know, what do you want to do here at DC? And you felt like that's like a home. It was a great opportunity for me to, you know, do the things that I want to do in a way, in a style that I think it should look good. And even with just like little things like getting people approved to work on your project in 5 minutes, as opposed to going through paperwork and other stuff, just things that just irritate you, that you just don't want to deal with. And that's where I'm at. I'm very glad to be working. And Hasbro, I have a 15-year relationship with Hasbro. They're friends, I've been to their wedding. So when working on certain things, they just go, hey, do your thing, Ken.
Do you want to tell the Avengers 4 story?
This is the craziest story. Okay, so I work with Hasbro a lot. I do all the packaging art for G.I. Joe, and I'm even a G.I. Joe. I have my own G.I. Joe. I'm a character called Burnout, and I have long dreadlocks. I'm very sexy. So we do this. They want to fly me in for this meeting, and I think it's very strange. We talk all the time. I don't need to be there, but they really want to be there. So I go to this meeting. I fly in, and it's about Avengers 4. So I go, oh, okay. So this is about 3 months before Black Panther comes out. So I'm sitting in the office, and I go, okay, this is what we want you to talk about. And he pushes the button, and the screen goes.
What time was this?
7 o'clock in the morning, because they work early. They get in there early. You think, wow, these guys are really hardcore. They get in early. No, they get in early so they can leave at 3. That's how it goes. So you get in at 7 o'clock. They push the button, and the first graphic they showed me was, these are the characters that survived to Avengers 4. And I was like, what the? And it was like, what? You know, my brain just, there was no prep. There was no like, okay, we're gonna show you some stuff now. It's like, no, this is because they've seen it. They've seen it for a year. So they punched the button. I was like, and then it was like, they pushed the button, like 2 minutes later to the next one, I went, no, go back. And where's the black guy? And it was just one of those, it was a crazy moment. And it was crazy about it was over the next 2 or 3 days as I'm working on the thing that I was working on, you realize who's not there. Every time you do a drawing, you go, oh, that guy's dead too. Every 20 minutes there was a new thing. And then they showed me all the concept work for 4. So I saw all that stuff, and you piece together how it's gonna work out. But here's the saddest part. My daughter doesn't want to know. None of my people in my circle want, and I can't tell them anyway. But my daughter was like hardcore. Don't tell me, because years ago, the last time they flew me there for something sensitive, they asked, the guy who I work with, he works on Star Wars, so he told me, do you want to know what happens in Force Awakens? I go, no, I don't want to know, just go back to your office. He goes, no, I want to tell you something. I go, I'll tell you one thing. I said, just tell me one thing. He goes, Han Solo dies. What kind of person?
There's no burying the lead there.
And I guess, honestly, I said, what kind of person are you? Okay. So then I'm sitting there, so I call my wife right after. She's like, well, how's the meeting? I go, it's great. Guess what? She goes, what? Han Solo dies. And so she calls me back, and she's like, and I hang up the phone. She calls me back, and she goes, what kind of person are you? I go, isn't marriage about sharing? Sharing. That's not what it's about. That's what it's about. But this is the kind of relationship I have with these guys. They're good people. But all I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you one thing. You have to see Ant-Man before you see number 4.
Ant-Man. Okay. As everyone in the UK probably knows, we're getting Ant-Man a full month after the Americans.
I'm just telling you.
Thank you very much indeed, World Cup. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
We'll know more.
Yeah.
After that.
There we go.
I'm just telling you.
Just to cycle back before we open up to questions, yeah, to the question about your ownership of books, and certainly when it comes to, say, something like Hard-Boiled, where you've created these issues and then you then go to trade, where do you kind of then say, okay, I'm done, that's it, I can draw the line and let the book just fly?
Well, on Hard-Boiled, it was Frank Miller, because he, on the third one, it's probably the only comic, it doesn't end the way I wanted it to end. Because I don't know if you've ever seen it, but at the end there's like this huge fight, and there's all these people are killed and wiped out, and I was going to draw everything. You were going to see it, him kill all those people. I wanted to do this thing where it'd start out with like a splash page, and each page there'd be from 1 panel to 2 panels to 3 panels to 4 panels to 5, and I wanted to get them so many panels on a page that by the time you were done looking at it, you would have a headache. So
He's still drawing it now.
So you would feel like that guy did at the end when he gets beaten by those. But Frank goes, you gotta stop. And so I did what I call the Hanna-Barbera ending, which was, I used to work at Hanna-Barbera Animation, and they were so cheap. And whenever there was any action, it would be like Shaggy would be like wow, Scoob, that plane is crashed full and it's full of dinosaurs. And they would never show the crash, so they just shake the camera and you'd see some dinosaurs standing near some wreckage because they didn't want to pay for it. So I did one double page spread with a bunch of dead people, and that was my hard-boiled Hanna-Barbera.
Oh, look over there.
But for the most part, I like on these Shaolin Cowboy comics, I add pages. No one's ever noticed, but I add pages so that there's no breaks in between them, so you can. I mean,
that was going to be the other project as well, because obviously that's your project. That was where do you let it go?
Hard-boiled, Frank just let me go. He was scared of me.
Fair enough. Okay, let's open up. If anybody has any questions, we've got a couple. I think I'm going to wander around at this point. We've got one at the back there. One, two, thank you. One at the back there, and we'll come to you first. Go for it, sir. Your name and the question.
Hi, can you hear me? My name's Joel, and so from my perspective, comic books is kind of like a split. So you either read comic books digitally or you read them from an actual book. I'm thinking, for the future, do you think there'd ever be a convergence? So for example, like reading a comic book partly through your phone as a viewer while you also have the book. It kind of merges together.
It's a big question.
Well, I've been involved in a company that did a lot of that stuff, a company called Madefire that I co-founded. So we did experiment with all sorts of storytelling, motion books, as our CEO coined the phrase. It added sound. For me, it's a different medium. It's not really comics, but I like the idea that if we're going to move into a digital area, we should definitely play with it at least. We shouldn't just be completely like, we shouldn't cut off our noses to spite our faces, and we should find out what those edges are and what we can do. And actually, we've done some stuff with Oculus, so we've done 3D comics that literally you're inside the story. Stuff with the sky domes where you're inside, an environment that is suitable to the story we're reading, which sounds like completely gimmicky, but actually if you're on like an aeroplane or something like that, it's quite nice to have this massive space around you, and not feel, especially if you're a bit claustrophobic, you can actually be, you can be really in your own sort of environment and reading whatever you want. There's room for it, I know Brian Haberlin is doing stuff with his comic Anomaly, where certain pages will trigger 3D stuff as if you put your phone over the top of it. But there's a lot of people playing around with it. You could be really purist about it, but I just think comics for me are full of the most imaginative writers and artists on the planet. And if we just say no, it should only be on paper, then we're just being dumb. Why would we do that? The possibilities are endless.
Excellent stuff. So we've got a couple of questions here. We'll start here and then go back. Excellent stuff. Your name and your question, sir.
Hi, my name is Ronan. I was wondering what you think of, again, a question about the digital space, but more, as we go forward, it seems like that's becoming more popular. and people buy single issues sometimes. Sometimes you can subscribe. I was wondering what your thoughts are as to the future of the industries, and as digital paper is always going to be there, I think, but you know, we are going increasingly digital. You know, is it going to be? Are we looking at subscription services? Are we looking at paper issue? Are we? What do you guys think?
I think that also relates as well to how a story is told as well.
Again, this is. I feel like I'm hogging this now, but we've been literally looking at this stuff for like the last 6-7 years through a made file. It's never going to replace print. I think what's really nice is that where everyone was really worried and terrified, especially the retailers, of the digital world coming in and spoiling it, it didn't really affect the sales. The prints actually went up a little bit over the last few years as digital has been adopted. I think what is happening is people are often reading digitally and then getting trades. The trade market is growing. I don't really see a problem with that. I like the trades too. There's a point when you're collecting comics where you just end up with a garage full of like just long boxes full of stuff you can never get to.
Welcome to my world.
Right. So, you know, and also I think the other nice thing about digital is you can have access to comics anywhere. So even if you don't have a local comic shop, you can find a way in that way. And we need to be getting more people invested in reading comics all the time. So all the different ways in are, for me, they're just like a gateway drug to, you know, to the paper.
Excellent, thank you.
I lived in Japan for a year, and I have a lot of friends that draw comics over there. And a lot of those guys, they drew phone comics, and it was stuff you wouldn't see anywhere else. You had to, it was tied in with a pachinko game or Nissan noodles, and they would do these 40-page comics that you'd get if you and that was their like bread and butter money, because you're drawing actual manga over there, unless you're you know, Akira Toriyama or Otomo, they don't make a lot of money.
Thank you very much indeed. I think we've got time for just one last question. Your name and your question, sir?
Hi, I'm Chris. I was wondering, is it a hard decision to sometimes sell some of your original pages online or through art dealers? I say this because I was at Liam's exhibition in Derby last summer, and I was really quite relieved when you had the Wonder Woman 23 pages on the screen there of like Ares, like, oh, thank God you didn't sell those, so at least I could.
That one was sold. It was lent to me for the show.
I was just wondering, so yeah, is it a hard decision to sell some of your original pages, especially ones you're proud of?
Some pages are hard to let go, but sometimes you got to, you know, you might need a deposit for a house or a new car or whatever. It's like practicality demands that you sometimes need money, and unfortunately that means you generally have to sell your favorite babies.
I have no problem selling it, because I just don't. It's work for hire. So most of it is stuff. My own stuff is still next to my desk. The stuff that I do for X-Men, you know, there are a couple pages in there that I would love, a couple covers that I would love, but most of it is. And to be perfectly honest, this is something that a lot of people don't know, is that there's a group of dealers who will contact me and say, once I've announced on a project, will contact me and ask to buy issues before I've drawn them. You know, so sometimes I always say no. And for years I didn't sell my pages, and then you have 2,000 pages in your house, and then you realize I should have sold some of these, and then you do.
That's it.
For me, there's no problem selling any of my stuff. Like, because for me, once I've done it, I've done it and I'm happy with it, and it will stay with me forever. Even if I sell that page, I know that
It's
I will
almost
say.
like an artifact that you're looking backwards instead of looking forward to future work, maybe.
Yeah, no. I don't know. I just once I put it on the paper, it means that even if I really like what I did, I've already understood what I did, so it's in me. So that piece of paper can go, because in that page I've understood something that I will bring to other pages. So it's not a problem to get rid of that and just give it away to somebody. And plus, it makes me happy to know that somebody appreciates my stuff and wants it in his house. So I'm happy.
You heard the words "give away" then, didn't you?
Oh no, I know. I mean,
I heard it.
not in a sense, but And it's not a matter of money, really. I mean, it helps for sure. But I'm just happy when I see somebody that wants to own some of my stuff, and I just, especially if I see that the guy is looking at something in particular, like some specific panel or stuff, not necessarily a splash page or whatever, Batman, and he just picks a page with a particular thing in that, maybe a car that he likes in that panel. That's what makes me happy. So I'm more than happy to sell my stuff.
And yourself, Geoff, when it comes to selling these masterpieces that you produce. Sorry, I'm going to continue blowing smoke well and truly up your ass for the any opportunity I get.
I'm going to float away in a second. Yeah, you know, I've kept a lot of this because I don't do that much, but I would like the hard-boiled and the stuff I did with Miller's and they're all gone. Some I sold, some of it I gave it away. The one thing I gave away because I love Sam Raimi, and I got invited to his house for some dinner. It's like this super dinner. There's Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell showed up and John Woo, and I was like, holy shit, man. I thought I had to bring him something, so I brought them the covers of this hard-boiled comic, #3. It's this one where there's a guy with his head, a hole through his head, and you can see through the hole, and you see that. And I gave that, the front and the back cover, to him and his producer, and a year later, it showed up in The Quick and the Dead. He actually did the shot. Yeah. So I go, yeah, there you go. So, but
I gotta say,
I guess I don't do that much. I give it to my daughter because I just don't produce a lot of stuff. I make a lot of pencil drawing. A lot of the movie stuff, except now if you learn this, the movie stuff now, everybody, but now I still draw on paper, and they think everybody draws on digital. So now when I work on a movie, they think it's all on computer, so I still have all the drawings. Even some stuff for Disney, and so that's kind of nice.
I gave a friend of mine a birthday present. He was not in comics, didn't collect comics, but he liked Spider-Man, so I gave him a Spider-Man splash that I did. And he seemed happy with it, but I went round his house like a month later, and he just stuck it on the wall with blue tack.
I love that.
That's art.
I was at a show in New York.
You can't say anything.
And these two little girls came up. They were so cute with their dad, and they're looking at these drawings I did, and they were so, and I gave them to them, these original drawings, right? They were so happy. They came back an hour later, and they colored them with crayons. I was like, that's it, that's it. And they go, oh, how could they do that, man? I go, that's what you do when you're a kid. That's the best thing, that's the best compliment anybody could pay you.
That's a fantastic way to finish. We could keep going because I'm certain there's more we could talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Geof Darrow, Ken Lashley, Liam Sharp and Matteo Scalera. Thank you very much indeed, guys. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed your time, and I hope you did as well. Once again, it is something that we are developing here at MCM, and we are developing a dedicated space for Comics Village, and we're really ramping things up as we go through for shows as we go forward. Please do share on social media, tell everyone that you enjoyed it, do come back for more panels, and enjoy the rest of MCM London, everybody. Take care. Thank you very much indeed.